Hey, Dawn, we're getting some like background noise from you. Thank you.
Are you ready to start recording?
The clock in the room still shows 6:59, so we're going to give it another 30 seconds.
This conference will now be recorded.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the City of Warrenville Public Works and Infrastructure Committee of the Whole regular meeting. It is Monday, February 14th, 2022, and it's 7 p.m. Clerk Gregovetti, could we please have I just want everybody to know that this meeting is being recorded, and in accordance with Governor Pritzker's disaster proclamation, Section 7E of the Illinois Open Meetings Act, 5 ILCS 120/7 and a determination by myself, Chairman Claire Berry, this meeting will be held virtually. Okay, now, Deputy Clerk Grevetti, could we have a roll call, please?
Mayor Bummel.
Here.
Alderman Ashour.
Here.
Alderman Berry.
Here.
Alderman Davalos.
Here.
Alderman Goodman.
Here.
Alderman Kershaw.
Here.
Alderman Fruckenberg.
Here.
Alderman Lockett. Alderman Lockett.
We're not hearing you.
I see him saying here, but audio is not working.
Thank you. Alderman Widener.
Here.
Thank you. Staff, City Administrator Copley is excused. Assistant City Administrator White.
Here.
Public Works Director Cooper.
Here.
Senior Civil Engineer Hawking.
Here.
Management Analyst Youngmeyer.
Here.
City Clerk Clark.
Here.
Participating.
Here.
Thank you. Deputy City Clerk Grevetti, I am here. Any other staff that I missed?
Finance Director Dahlstrand is also in attendance.
Thank you. Anyone else? Thank you. You have a quorum.
Thank you. Now we're pleased, anyone that is in the building here, please stand while we do the Pledge of Allegiance. And if you're at home, please say it silently to yourself. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, now on to citizens' comments. We'll begin with anyone present at City Hall wishing to make a comment. We do have someone in the audience, but he has said that he would not like to do any comments this evening. We will now hear any verbal comments from the public participating by phone. Anyone from the public wishing to speak, please announce yourself, with your name and address. Please speak slowly and clearly so we can capture your information. Once we have everyone wishing to speak, I will call on you one by one to proceed with your comments. And do we have anybody on the phone who wishes to make a comment this evening? Hearing none, we will go forward. There have been no emails that were received, so we will not be reading any email comments this evening. Before concluding the public comment, once we conclude the citizens' comments, there will not be another opportunity for the public to make comment this evening. Now on to officials and staff comments. Mayor Brummel?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I have nothing to add at this point this evening.
Thank you. Clerk? Clark?
I have nothing as well.
Okay, thank you. Treasurer's not here this evening. And now the Alderman Ashour.
No comments, thank you.
Thank you. I have no comments either, except happy Valentine's Day, and I'm sure you're all glad that we're here together this evening and not out trying to get a reservation for dinner. Alderman Davalos.
I have no comments tonight. Thank you, Chairman.
Alderman Goodman.
Thank you. Yes, I just wanted to briefly mention that the FemiLab virtual open house, which took place over the course of most of last week, was a smashing success, and that for any of you who are interested and want to hear any of the presentations that you may have missed, most of them are available on either the FemiLab YouTube channel, if you want to watch, for example, Mr. Freeze do his cryogenic show, or any of the iron scientist competitions, all sorts of fun events like that. You can go to fnal.gov, the FermiLab website, or look up FermiLab on YouTube and see a lot of the videos from the course of the virtual open house.
Great, thank you. Alderman Krischel.
No comments tonight, thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Kruckenberg.
No comments for me this evening, thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Lockett. We're still not hearing you. Okay, no comment. Alderman Widener.
I have no comments this evening, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Since the administrator is not here, city administrator, will go to Assistant City Administrator White. Do you have any comments this evening?
Just notifying everyone that we have canceled the Inclusion, Diversity, Equity, and Awareness Commission meeting that was scheduled for tomorrow evening. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now on to the business of the meeting. We will first of all have the administration department will make a presentation for the FY 2023 budget, and that would be Assistant City Administrator Christina White.
Thank you and good evening. Give me a moment here to share my screen with everyone. Okay. So first and foremost, a copy of all the slides are included inside of the packet for this evening's meeting, along with a copy of the work plan, which is also included. The Administration Department FY23 budget is going to start with a brief overview of some of the responsibilities of the Administration Department. Generally speaking, I think, like most of the public, when asked what the Administration Department does, there isn't really one clear, easy answer because it encompasses a variety of tasks and responsibilities. Among them are the oversight of the city as a whole under the direction of the city administrator, supporting the mayor, city council, and other city departments and boards and commissions, as well as human resources, risk management, information technology, city records and communication, and a variety of special projects, including the renewal of the garbage contract, the electric aggregation program, and acting as the liaisons to the utilities like ComEd and Comcast. So, for fiscal year 22, what did our year look like? It looked a little bit like everything but the kitchen sink, which is what you're seeing in front of you on your screen. There was a variety of activities and tasks and new things, ongoing issues like the pandemic, but we could spend several hours here tonight going through all of these things, and I won't torture all of you with that, so we are going to focus on a few key activities for fiscal year 22. Among them, COVID-19 and the changing landscape that has provided. The City Administration Department is still the lead pandemic response department, looking at the various implications of not only the health portions of the pandemic and the public communication, but also the internal activities like the personnel policies, the technology changes, and all of the other changing circumstances, virtual meetings, remote work, all of the above. With that came also AV and IT upgrades, new equipment, the introduction of GoToMeeting as a virtual and live viewing and participation option for the public, which as a positive side will continue long past the pandemic. Many risk management activities, increased leave cases and FMLA cases, safety policies and processes, the negotiations of our collective bargaining agreement with all three of our union groups began in some way in fiscal year 22 and some completed in fiscal year 22. The garbage refuse contract and recycling program was renewed May 1st of 2021 with a new garbage contractor, and that included several changes to the program as well as the contractor, requiring significant communication and response to questions, especially in the early part of the year. And then, of course, recruiting and hiring continues to be a significant effort. Onboarding, we had 14, or will have about 14 new recruitments or new hires by the end of this fiscal year, including additional elected and appointed official onboarding efforts into the city. We are working on more engaging job postings. As you may have heard, the job market is very competitive at this time. So with that, we have introduced a brand new recruitment video. I'm going to hold that to the end, but I am going to show the recruitment video this evening. This will be the first time it's been seen in public, and it'll go public via the YouTube channel tomorrow. So what does fiscal year 23 have in store for us? There are no signs of things slowing down, although the priorities will continue to change, and some of these issues will become less of a focus while others take more of the forefront. Especially with COVID, vaccination and treatment improvements, we're all hoping to see that stabilize the COVID-related issues into the upcoming year, but certainly there will still be ongoing impacts of the pandemic. Other factors like inflation, the Great Resignation, and hiring challenges, legislative changes will all continue to play a part. Upgrades in technology will continue to be a focus moving forward into fiscal year 23. Some of the ongoing priorities include the city's collective bargaining agreement. There will likely be one that is ongoing into fiscal year 23 with our officers. We expect to have continued recruiting and hiring. Again, it's a very competitive employment market. There will likely be some ongoing review of our compensation and benefits, dealing with the implications of the Minimum Wage Act increases by 2025. As a reminder, the state of Illinois has a $15 minimum wage statute that took effect a few years ago. And we're also seeing challenges with the number of applicants to positions, including in the police department, which has seen a decline in the testing applications for the job openings we have this year. Supporting IDEC will continue to be a major priority of administration staff, as well as the other volunteer groups and commissions that we support. The ERP implementation, I know many of you have heard us say that we are expected to be done by now, but there have been several issues beyond turnover on the implementers team. There's also the impacts of COVID that slowed us down. There will likely be another presentation at the March Public Safety and Finance Committee with more details about the timeline and where we are specifically with that project. Long-term financial planning will ensure that we can continue to operate and succeed into the future with the changing landscape. That includes working with the EMRP work groups, the long-range financial planning group, the CMRP, and some of the other work groups that we have in place to help us with those financial forecasting measures. And finally, succession planning for the future continuity of city operations. As we have folks retiring, we want to make sure that we have that transfer of knowledge and continue to operate without missing a beat. The fiscal year 23 decision packages that are included in this year's budget for review include a community survey. This is really the first step towards an updated strategic plan. However, depending on staff resources and the budget as a whole, this item may be held for a future year. The remaining items are likely to be moved forward. The communications coordinator has been discussed at least for the last couple of fiscal years. We did a staffing study a few years back and there was broad support for this position, but due to some financial implications with COVID and other issues that came up, it had to be put aside. So we are hopeful that this year will be the year that we can move forward with filling this position. The computer replacement program, we were on a 3-year replacement schedule. Because of this last year, all of the IT upgrades related to COVID and things that we had to accomplish, the computer replacements were put on hold. So this upcoming year includes a larger budget to do more computer replacements because we had to hold off in fiscal year 22 on some. Multi-factor authentication, as more local governments are targeted by ransomware and other security breaches. Our cyber liability insurance carrier has recommended strongly that multi-factor authentication be installed internally for control purposes. And it is likely that we will have challenges getting cyber liability renewal if we don't put this in place. So that is a decision package that is being recommended. And finally, the council dais tablets, which was a discussion, I believe around this time last year, to look at an option to have electronic access to the packets in place of paper packets up at the dais, and we will discuss those options further, as well as the rest of these decision packages at the upcoming budget workshop. And now, before we get to questions, I'm going to ask April, our AV technician, to start a video so you all can see the new City of Warrenville recruitment video. So I'm going to stop sharing and allow April to take over.
If you're looking to make a difference in a job that you love, in a place where what you do can have a real impact, look no further. Check out the opportunities available with the City of Warrenville. Located just 30 miles west of Chicago, Warrenville is a friendly, welcoming community that is growing. You can join a staff of professionals and caring workers dedicated to helping people every day. In addition to rewarding work, the city offers competitive salaries, a generous benefit package, and professional development to help you achieve your career goals. Visit our website and make a difference in a job you love. Join us in Warrenville.
Okay, so that was our new recruitment video, which I hope you all enjoyed. It's short, it's quick, it's brief, but I think it also provides a great overview of what we have to offer as an employer here in the City of Warrenville. And with that, I am ready to take any questions.
Great, thank you very much. We'll go through the list here, and if anyone has any questions or comments. First off, Mayor Brummel.
Thank you. Well done, except there was no sound, Christina. We didn't get to enjoy the sound part of the video. So perhaps if you could correct that and we could see it again, that would be great.
I will share the link with all of you after the meeting, and it will be published on our YouTube channel tomorrow and on the city's Facebook page.
Very good. That's good. Thank you.
Alderman Ashour.
Excellent presentation. No comment. No questions.
Great. Myself, I want to thank Christina for a great presentation, right, direct to the point. And, yeah, we get the volume. We heard the volume here, so it sounded really good. So I can't wait for everyone else to hear it. So we'll go on to Alderman Davalos.
Thank you. Yes, I can't wait to hear it either, so I will look for that tomorrow. Yeah, as I look at the first page of presentation with the square and the inordinate amount of tasks on that square, I just want to thank the whole administrative team for they had a lot to accomplish this year, and we have a lot of good staff associated with that part of government, and I just like to thank them all. This is wonderful, and keep up the good work. I'm excited about the new changes. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Goodman.
Yes, thank you very much, Christina. I look forward to hearing the video. I have two questions. One is when it says on the department work plan that there'll be a decision package about replacing cameras. That's the video cameras that are in the council chambers?
Yes, that is part of the AV upgrades. They are over 10 years old now, and we, I believe, had a plan to replace them in this past year, but other upgrades took priority, so we moved them to fiscal year 23.
Okay, that's what I thought. And secondly, I guess I just want to reiterate some concern about that item in connection with the top tier 3 item, which is evaluating the city's audiovisual equipment, including an assessment of the mediums and methods used for the recording, cablecasting, and replay of the city meetings. The order here just seems wrong. We never seem to do the assessment of what we need. We just keep buying expensive new equipment without ever assessing what equipment we think we need to have. And this has been true with servers. This has been true with the last year's worth of audiovisual upgrades, and now that's the plan again. So I guess, you know, my concern is just that we're not being proactive. We're only able to be reactive to our audiovisual and technology situation, and investing a lot of money into systems that do have some lifetime. I guess technology often doesn't have a very long lifetime, so maybe we're not locked in for a very long time. But it just makes it harder and harder to do the assessment because we're already locked into the solutions that we're currently using. So I know I've expressed this concern in prior budget years, and I know that staff has a lot of other very important things, and I know that things are likely to only be more crazy in the short term. But I just think it's an important issue to raise.
Thank you, Alderman Goodman. There are upgrades that need to be made because of technology that fails, but I understand your point, and yes, it has come up in previous years. It is something that we continue to work through with our current AV company. Doing a larger full-blown assessment would require contracting probably with a third party to come in and evaluate what we have, what could continue to be used, and what would need to be replaced. But the continuing conversations with our AV company has been to simplify the technology in that room over time because it was built for a lot more use than what we currently have in place with recording and broadcasting the city meetings. So that is still something that we are working through, but I realize there is a larger assessment that will eventually need to be done, and we hope to prioritize it as soon as possible.
Thank you, and thank you very much for your hard work.
Do you have any other questions, Alderman Goodman?
No, those were the two questions.
Thank you. Alderman Krischel?
I have no questions. Nice job.
Okay, Alderman Kruckenberg?
Looks like a really good work plan. Thank you for your efforts on this, Christina. And no other questions or comments.
Okay, thank you. Alderman Lockett?
No questions at this time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Alderman Widener?
Thank you. I just have a question about the replacement of computers every 3 years. If that standard is a national standard among government agencies, or where does that come from? It just seems like, I know my personal computer is probably more than 5 years old, and I just wonder whether or not, as time moves on, whether the dependability of these kinds of technologies can be expanded so that we're not replacing every 3 years.
Sure. Generally, the replacement is on desktop computers and laptops. That came a few years ago in discussions with our IT support services folks. We were seeing that our computers were generally on about a 5-year lifespan, but by the time they reached year 3.5, year 4, the probability of them going down mid-work, which was very disruptive, got higher. And so in discussions with our IT company, they recommended a 3-year replacement program. The main difference being that our computers here get a lot of wear and tear, especially for those office staff. They're on their computers anywhere from 7, 8, 9, 10 hours consistently throughout a day, and they run 5 days a week at minimum. Usually they're running significant programs, applications, in some cases with some of our departments, large applications and software like map viewing technology, for example. So the wear and tear is very different. And so the 3-year program was put in place to avoid interruptions in work that then would force someone to essentially be without a computer and a workstation for the day, or possibly 2 days until a replacement could be ordered and would arrive in time to be configured and installed. Realistically, while the 3-year program is our goal, it's been more like 3.5 to 4 years, quite frankly, when the computers are replaced. There are some exceptions to that, again, on the heavy users, but we do try to be consistent. But again, with other resources sometimes taking priority, there are delays.
Thank you. A very good answer. I like the idea of expanding it where possible for maybe the users that aren't using the heavy duty programs to try to stretch it out 4 years. Seems like there'd be a significant cost savings if we could, instead of having an across the board replacement policy, maybe kind of look at things and arrange things so that they're, replaced without, when needed. And so then my other question has to do with the AV changes, and I just wonder whether or not with the changes we'd be able to get subtitles with the visuals. I know there's an awful lot of people with hearing impairments and things like that, and I think it would be helpful as we move forward to have subtitles as part of the AV program.
Okay, that was something that came up recently with an IDEC meeting. GoToMeeting at this point does not have the ability to close caption live during the meeting. I believe there is some ability to close caption recordings after the fact, but I know there are some platforms that do offer that closed captioning during live meetings, and we can look to incorporate that if that is council direction moving forward.
Thank you. Excellent work plan. Appreciate your efforts.
Thank you. And thank you again, Christina, for your presentation. That was a information only, and we don't need a motion. Okay, on to number 2. We're going to have the Public Works Department FY 2023 budget presentation by Public Works Director Phil Kugler. Phil?
Thank you, Alderman Berry, and good evening. This year's a year of transition for Public Works, as is for probably much of the world. Over the last 2 fiscal years, the city's purposely limited spending and delayed purchases where possible on items, and now with hope that the worst of the pandemic is behind us while it's not over. The fiscal year 23 budget for Public Works looks more like a pre-pandemic budget for Public Works. So I'm going to start with looking back at fiscal year 22, the current fiscal year, and our accomplishments, and I'm going to start with Utility Division. The slide is split between the sanitary sewer system and the water system. The sanitary sewer system these days, is any work on that is primarily inflow and infiltration reduction program driven. So we are typically doing flow monitoring in any given year, as well as some additional manhole inspections and smoke testing on different sections of the system. And then this year we had a construction project for the first 2 basins where we did a lot of manhole lining, which was completed. The water system this year was that's not very construction heavy, but instead we were dealing with IEPA regulations and requirements to perform a risk and resilience assessment, which was due, I think, in June or July of this past year, and then also update the city's emergency response plan for the water system, which was due 6 months after, so it was due at the end of the calendar year. And those were part of a decision package from fiscal year 21. Staff did discover a leaking water main underneath Route 59 late in 2021 and contracted with a contractor to line that water main at Route 59. And there's an item later on tonight's agenda for a change order associated with that work. So moving on to the street division, I've got this split more between construction projects versus design, engineering, and property acquisition phases of the projects. The 2021 road program is the second year in a row where we had a reduced road program. The staff did complete another private drainage assistance project in the Summer Lake subdivision, and I believe that was the 3rd such project we've completed now in-house to help out residents with private drainage issues in their rear yards. The staff also completed upgrading a segment of the east side storm sewer, which is basically upsizing the pipe for more capacity, and that serves an area that's generally bounded by Warrenville Road, Virginia Avenue, Central Avenue, and Wilbur Avenue. And it really was the primary focus of that was addressing 2 drainage issues with some flooding in the low spot on Virginia Avenue, north of Warrenville Road, and then also at the intersection of Wilbur and Central. And finally, for construction projects, there was a $203,000 contract to line storm sewers at 3 different locations in the city. There's a segment of storm sewer in River Oaks, as well as a segment of storm sewer along Stafford Place that runs through the Trailhead project area. And there were 2 large storm sewers that drain the large Summer Lakes detention pond under Lakeview Drive, that had to be lined as well. And there was also a change order associated with that project later on tonight's agenda. The projects that are in the design and property acquisition stage this year are the 2022 road program, and staff is currently working with a consultant to finalize bid documents for that project. That consists of east side streets east of Winfield Road and north of Galusha. The staff worked with the consultant also to finalize bid documents for the Trailhead project, which is scheduled to go out to bid at the end of April this year, with construction anticipated in the fall. The staff has worked with the consultant also to finalize the preliminary engineering for the Mack Road Bridge and Trail project, and we're currently awaiting IDOT comments or hopefully approval of the preliminary engineering at this point. And staff has continued to negotiate for, easements with the Riggi and Barclay property owners, and the purpose of that would be to get a public road easement from those property owners so those 2 private roads could become city roads that would be owned and maintained by the city moving forward. And move on to other projects. So my other projects category is kind of a catch-all. It catches some kind of general public works projects as well as facility maintenance projects. The Public Works Reorganization Plan that was approved by City Council in December of 2020 resulted in 4 promotions this year, and those were 4 decision packages that were included in the current fiscal year budget. The Street Division Lead Supervisor was promoted to Capital Maintenance Superintendent. The Utility Division Lead Supervisor was promoted to Utility Maintenance Superintendent. A Street Division Worker was promoted to Street Division Crew Leader, and a Water Utility Worker was promoted to Utility Division Crew Leader. City Council also accepted a staff recommendation to eliminate the Fleet Management Technician position because After staff evaluated the data for the last couple of years since the city's long-term mechanic retired, the staff was able to demonstrate that it was more cost-effective to outsource all of the fleet management activities or maintenance activities rather than have somebody on staff to perform some of that work. And finally, there was a project with Facility Maintenance Division that was to paint and tuck point the City Historical Museum on 2nd Street last summer. Looking ahead to fiscal year 23, there are some big projects that have been in the planning stages for years that'll kind of come to fruition with some construction this year. The sanitary sewer system, again, is going to be focused on the I&I reduction program. This year, there'll be a flow monitoring contract that will be brought before City Council in April with the intent of having the flow monitoring services performed during the month of May and into June. There's going to be some manhole inspections and smoke testing done in the River Oaks, Fox Hollow, and Maple Hill subdivisions this year. And there won't be any construction project that is contracted out this year. Staff will continue to do some improvements in-house like we do every year. But we've taken a different approach in the construction phase of these projects and are trying to group 2 or 3 basins together to get a larger project and hopefully better bid prices and more favorable pricing for the city. The water system this year is really all about the water towers. So we've got a contract with McGuire Iron for the first 2 bullet points there, which is to paint the exterior of the south water tower, which is located on West Street, south of Deal Road in Cantera. And then also to paint the interior of the west water tower, which is on Country Ridge Drive, north of Batavia Road. And staff is still in negotiations to acquire property to build a new water tower and well and iron filtration facility in the Southwest District. And we are optimistic that that property will be acquired this year and design engineering will start, and hopefully we can even get out to bid on the first segment of that project. Moving on to street division for fiscal year 23. The construction projects that are planned for this year, and I want actually before I start that, you'll notice in the parentheses after several of the line items in this slide, there's several acronyms, and those acronyms are for various funding sources that are where we've got outside funding to help partially fund those projects. So for the 2022 road program, the road program is typically funded by the Capital Maintenance and Replacement Fund, and this year we are using $500,000, or proposing to use $500,000 of state motor fuel tax money to help supplement the CMRP. The Williams Road Bridge Maintenance Project was supposed to have been constructed in the current fiscal year, but with some longer review times and in the process with IDOT when we're working in the river, that got delayed till the next fiscal year. So we're currently have submittal into IDOT for review, and we're working our way through that process, but that'll be funded entirely with state motor fuel tax money. The Trailhead project, the construction phase, will be funded 75% by federal Surface Transportation Program funds. And we'll have another construction project to line storm sewers. There's a long segment of storm sewer in the Winchester subdivision, and a segment of storm sewer in the Summer Lake subdivision that needs to be lined this year too. As far as design and property acquisition go for this year, the 2023 road program will be designed in-house and bid documents will be prepared next winter. The Batavia Road Resurfacing project west of Route 59 is currently being designed by a consultant for the city, and that has federal Surface Transportation Program funds that will fund 70% of the construction costs for that phase when we go out to bid next spring in 2023. The square courts, which are the square courts we're talking about for this project, are located west of Shaw between Continental Drive and Batavia Road. And the city received $600,000 in community development block grant funds through the county. And there's a decision package. This engineering is part of a decision package for the current fiscal year. Staff is proposing money in the budget for construction in fiscal year 23, but they were really dependent on when HUD releases the funding to the county to be able to perform that construction. So when they release the funding, we'll have a better idea of the schedule. I think it is more likely that project will probably be constructed in calendar year 23, which means fiscal year 24. Mac Road Bridge and Trail project, we will start final engineering as soon as we can get approval from IDOT of the preliminary engineering. And there's an item on tonight's agenda. It's actually the next item on the agenda for I'm sorry, I'm skipping an item here. This will be funded by federal surface transportation program funds again, and the city's share of the final engineering will be funded by the Rebuild Illinois bond funds that came from the state of Illinois. And the item that is going to be on tonight's agenda next is the Route 59 Sidewalks and Paths preliminary engineering contract, which will be 100% city funded, but the construction phase will be funded 75% by federal STP funds again. And moving on to other projects, there were several initiatives that were delayed during the past 2 years due to the pandemic. Again, as we were trying to avoid spending money where we didn't have to spend it, and even reducing spending on projects where we did have to spend money, that caused delays on certain projects. The first one of those initiatives is evaluation of solar opportunities with city facilities. And staff is intending to evaluate 3 of its well sites for the possibility of installing solar on the roofs of the buildings there, and also the Public Works building. And we're going to work through with the contractor to get some advice on and some ballpark estimates on what it costs to install solar on those facilities. And there'll also probably be some, I know there'll be conversations with ComEd about the feasibility of putting solar on those facilities, like the Public Works building where we don't pay for electricity, and how that would work in terms of possibly getting credits back toward maybe our street lighting or something like that. And also to try to investigate any incentive programs that might be out there to help fund these projects. And then we'll report back to council once we have a better handle on what that might mean for feasibility and cost effectiveness of those projects. There's a decision package from fiscal year 21 that was delayed due to the pandemic, which was to install high-speed garage doors on the main entrance and exit garage doors for the Public Works building. And that I updated that decision package for the fiscal year 23 budget, and that's for $130,000. And the main reason behind that is the garage doors we have now are not intended for the amount of cycles that they get per day with the vehicles going in and out of them, and the city ends up spending about $5,000 to $10,000 per year to repair those garage doors or some component of them. And we just had a contractor out last week repairing them again. So that'll be the high-speed garage doors are meant for the frequent use of going in and out of those doors. And the next project is Public Works Reorganization Plan, and in fiscal year 23, we've got 2 decision packages proposed to hire a street division worker and a water utility worker. And these would be 2 new employees to backfill positions that were vacated by the promotions of the crew leaders. And this would be the final phase of the Public Works reorganization for now. This would make Public Works fully staffed, and then I wouldn't anticipate coming back for quite a few years until we can really evaluate how our staffing is versus the workload. Those 2 decision packages are included in the fiscal 23 budget. There's the transfer of Harding Field to the Park District, and the picture on this slide is actually an aerial of Harding Field and the Public Works building. The property line that separates the two pieces of property right now isn't ideal for transferring that property to the Park District. So the staff has budgeted for a surveyor to help develop a plat of subdivision to re-subdivide and redraw that property line between them, so the Park District gets Harding Field and the path, and then the city would maintain the stormwater detention pond and the Public Works facility. And finally, one of the other initiatives that was delayed due to the pandemic was the tree maintenance and planting plan. And city had hired Davie Resource Group to perform a tree inventory and then develop a tree maintenance plan, and that happened in May of 2020, and staff did not bring that to council until December of 21 because there was really no opportunity to increase funding to change any of our current practices. So right now, Public Works staff has been performing a lot of tree pruning this winter to get a handle on what it would take for staff to take on this work of pruning all the city's trees over a 5-year period and doing that on a 5-year cycle. And then also, staff is going to be putting together some alternatives for a planting plan for this, or planting program for the city, and making a recommendation to council later this year, probably at the December Public Works Committee meeting, so it can inform the next year's budget as far as what the planting program could be for the city and what council would like to see. And with that, I'd be happy to entertain any questions.
Thank you, Phil. Now I'll go through the list of the mayor and the alderman for questions for Phil. Mayor Brummel?
Thank you. Thank you, Phil. Listening to both you and Christina, I'm just impressed with the amount of projects and the amount of work that you folks are able to accomplish. Even though our resources have been strained over the last couple of years due to COVID, it is just remarkable to me how many things you're able to accomplish. We have to put some things off that make sense to put off, but that doesn't slow you down at all. There's still so many things that you do well, and both of you deserve our thanks for that. I have just two quick questions. One is about painting the inside of the water tower. I'm intrigued as to how that might happen. I'm assuming it's full of water and has to be emptied at some point, and how long that takes and so on. If you have any quick information on that, that would be of interest to me. And the other question is on the Williams Road maintenance. I'm wondering what's included in that. I'm walking the dogs down there frequently. I've seen a lot of evidence of settling and spalling and some other problems with the bridge as it ages, and I was wondering what was included in that maintenance program. So thank you so much.
Sure. The painting the inside of the tower, they will have to drain the tower, and then they will scrape and remove the paint, and then they will make any repairs that are necessary, and then apply paint on the interior of the tower. They just did that 2 years ago on the tower on West Street south of Deal Road. And I want to say it was a matter of weeks that they had it down between making the repairs and painting and everything. And I think it was something like maybe 5 weeks that it had to be drained before they could put it back into service. So I would anticipate something similar with Country Ridge Drive Tower. Williams Road Bridge, there's a few different items on there. There's some surface cracking on the concrete wearing surface of the bridge that needs to be addressed. There's also some work on the curb and sidewalk. I think there's the approach slab for the road, which is, it's a section of concrete just before you get to the actual bridge portion. There was no slab that went underneath the sidewalk, and that's caused some settlement in the sidewalk. So part of the work is going to be to extend that slab under the sidewalk and give it some more support so it doesn't settle in the future. But and then there is some work underneath the bridge in the riverbed, which is part of what's causing some longer review times with Army Corps and with IDOT and that kind of stuff too. I think there's some scour and things like that where some additional rip-rap and work needs to be done down there to clean that up as well. And that's probably the bulk of the cost is going to be working down the river because that's more expensive. The concrete costs are the lesser part of the costs.
Great, thank you, Phil. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Alderman Ashour?
Nice presentation. I just have a question about the water tower issue. Will we be in any situation where it's going to put us at a disadvantage for an emergency with one of the water towers down and all the new construction we have?
No, I don't believe so. It's we had the largest water tower was the one that's on West Street, and that was the one that was down for 5 weeks 2 years ago, and the other two towers are half the size in terms of volume. They're 500,000 gallon towers. So for the short period of time, I don't anticipate any problems with the water supply or pressure.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have no questions. Alderman Davalos?
Yes, thank you. I don't have any questions, but I do have two comments. One is on I've mentioned this before, but I'm continually impressed with the progress that we have made on actually that you have led with your group with Public Works on doing all of I remember it was a page and a half, if not 2 pages, on the Public Works organization plan and how we wanted to set it up differently when you came on board. And it really, from my perspective, it's gone really quickly. Considering these kinds of plans don't always go quickly. So I just want to thank you for those efforts. I think it's made a big difference. I think the organization changes have produced some remarkable results and efficiencies, and I know you're not done, but I just want to thank you and Public Works for those efforts. My second thing is just, I put my environmental advisory committee liaison hat on for a minute and comment on the things that they're particularly interested in, and that is on this last page, the evaluate the solar opportunities. I always report back at our monthly meetings, so that was very positive with what you talked about. And the tree maintenance and planning plan, I know we don't have the details, and you talked, but you'll be working on them, I guess. And I just want to say that's also a priority of theirs. And I'm just glad to see that it's on a list somewhere. So thank you. That's all.
Thank you. Alderman Goodman.
Thank you. Yes, a couple of comments and a couple of questions. First of all, thank you very much for the detailed presentation. And in particular, for the efforts to be responsible with taxpayer dollars. I know it's sort of all mixed up in the acronyms where you talk about the funding, but STP, for example, is another way of saying that we got a grant for this and that we're not just strictly paying for it out of Warrenville funds. And I think that is worth emphasizing and calling out, and also in particular thanking you and the rest of staff for your efforts to find creative funding that we can use for projects here in Warrenville. My questions. You mentioned smoke testing and I&I program monitoring this year in River Oaks, Fox Hollow, and Maple Hill. Do you have any idea when that might be, roughly?
I'm not sure about the manhole inspections. Those would probably occur sometime over the summer, but the smoke testing itself would be, generally, we try to do it during the driest time of the year, so probably July-ish is when staff typically gets out there and does that, and city staff performs that work, so we try to provide notice, and especially in a subdivision where there is a active homeowners association, we'll try to communicate that way in advance, warn people what is coming. We'll obviously post stuff on Facebook, on the city's website too, to let people know what's coming, and also to know that it's not, it's smoke, but not, fire smoke. So we'll let them know what to expect and when, and hopefully no smoke is going into any buildings out there. Hopefully it's all coming up through the sanitary sewer service and the stacks that go up through the house and out the roof, and not in the house itself.
Absolutely, yes. And I think, just if we do have a sense that it'll be July-ish, notifying people well in advance so that they're not alarmed if they see it, that can be very helpful. I know Maple Hill, for instance, prints a physical newsletter that goes out to everybody. They might want to mention that, but they probably need some lead time. So yeah, obviously working through the homeowners associations would be a great way to communicate about that. My second question is on the work plan. I see that one of the items listed under projects not included in fiscal year 2022 work plan is number 4, develop final design plans for the city entrance sign replacements. But I did see that in tier 2, number 15, there's an entrance sign replacement, well, actually, maybe not a replacement, a new one, along the Route 59 frontage of the Everton project. And I just wondered if finalizing that design could be done when you're already designing a sign at the same time.
Yeah, I think the design is going to be based on the signs that are already in place along Butterfield Road. So it's going to be then taking that design and applying it to specific locations. And in the case of Everton, is the only easy one to do at this point, aside from paying for it. They've actually carved out a piece of a space for it to be installed when they developed the subdivision. So there's some other existing city entrance signs where there isn't necessarily a lot of room in the right of way, and dealing with IDOT requirements of setbacks and things like that are going to be more challenging. But the Everton one is a little bit low hanging fruit. So so we are including one of those signs in the work plan this year, but the rest of them are not in the work plan.
Okay, so what you mean is that you're not designing, the text of the sign, the font of the sign, the look of the sign. You're designing something to do with landscaping, perhaps, or the location setbacks.
Yes, it'll be. And again, Everton has a spot picked out already for us, so it'll be putting together a plan, and then I'm assuming we're going to go out to bid for it. I haven't. This community development's leading this one, but and putting together a plan to be able to build the sign from. And if we're going out to bid, go out to bid and advertise and get bids on. The other ones, there's going to be some issues with, because this one will be set far enough back where I don't think it'll probably be fairly simple design. It'll probably really be taking the design of the other signs, even the physical like structure of the design, to just put it in that spot. But there's some other ones that are closer to the road and IDOT right away that are more difficult, and we're going to have to get creative with that, either by trying to get an easement, acquiring an easement from a private property owner, or coming up with a different design that structurally that'll work for IDOT, because they don't like solid structures within a certain distance of their roadways.
Gotcha. Okay, that's very clear. Thank you very much, Phil. Great work.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you. Alderman Chrisell, please.
Yeah, thanks. I just had a question real quick about the solar opportunities, and is it correct to assume that, you know, when we look at these, and you know, obviously we're it's down the road a ways, but obviously the cost of the solar and the infrastructure to you know, hook it all together is kind of expensive. Is that something that is would we be looking at CMRP type funds to kind of maintain that, or is that more of like a lease agreement with the solar people, if that makes sense?
I think it's probably because it's not infrastructure that we currently have. It's probably would be a general fund expense to construct it, and then once it was constructed, it would go into the CMRP, and that way, whatever the lifespan is on the panels, say it's like 25 years, we'd have, if we increase we put in the CMRP, then over the 25 years we would be accumulating money to be able to replace them in the future. Staff will be investigating as part of this any incentive programs or even grants if they exist to offset any city costs, because my understanding it is it is fairly expensive if you just had to fund the entire project yourself.
Right. Okay. Yep. That was my question. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Kruckenberg.
Thank you. I'm excited about the creative finance that we always seem to be able to do. I do have a question. If you could talk briefly about the Williams Road bridge maintenance, what that entails.
It's there'll be some work on the concrete surfaces on there. There's some surface cracking that needs to be addressed, and really the surface of the bridge is there to protect the actual structure below it and the supporting structure, and so trying to address those cracks early in this process and prevent like the salt water from getting through them, you know, during the winter and that kind of stuff, will help protect those structural elements below it. There's some, I think as I mentioned earlier in response to the mayor's question, there's some sidewalk settlement and curb settlement that we need to address that is adjacent to the bridge. It's like kind of the approach slab area of the bridge. We need to I think the plan is to extend the approach slab underneath the sidewalk to give it more support so it doesn't settle. And then there's work in the river itself, which I think involves cleaning up around the piers, and one pier in particular where we've got to probably put some more protection so there's no scour on that around that pier in the riverbed.
Oh, I'm sorry if I'm having you repeat that. I guess I was thinking some of that conversation was about the Mack Road Bridge, not the Williams Road Bridge. So I apologize if that was part of a repeat. I am, pardon?
No, it's okay. I'm happy to answer your questions.
Okay. I am excited about the continued transferring of the different fields to the Park District. And I know that Alderman Lockett and I both have some upcoming orientation sessions with staff, and I'm looking forward to getting more in depth with you guys in some of these other projects that we've got going on. So appreciate your time.
Thank you.
That's it for me.
Thank you. Alderman Lockett.
Yes, I just have a comment. I have always been an admirer, Phil, from a distance with regards to the ability of our public works and their ability just to basically do anything, right? I mean, people see them hanging lights, they see them, hanging banners, doing whatever, but they really should appreciate the knowledge that we have top to bottom to fix just about anything that comes up in the city at any moment's notice. And having worked with many municipalities across the area, I said this way before, so it's now brownie points, but here it's pretty amazing what is accomplished. And then when you find out that there's only 10, 12, 14 of you guys, it makes it even more amazing. So just want to let you know that, and thanks for the presentation.
I appreciate that. We have a really good staff in Public Works, and not just Public Works, the entire city. I mean, we work closely with the other departments, and I'm really amazed constantly how, with the little staff we have here, how much we get done across the city.
Thank you. Now, Alderman Widener.
Yes, thank you very much. And Phil, congratulations on your accomplishments during fiscal year 22. I have a couple questions. One is regarding the Tier 2 projects. What, I guess if you had to give a prediction on the likelihood of getting to the Tier 2 projects, what do you think the chances are of being able to accomplish those?
I think we'll get to most of the Tier 2 projects. I mean, those are high priority projects. The reason they rank a little bit lower than Tier 1 is because a lot of Tier 1 projects have grant funding associated with them and things like that, or some definite deadlines where we need to get a project done. But I would anticipate we're going to get to most of those projects.
And then with the Harding Field transfer to the Park District, you mentioned that there needs to be some lines drawn in order to understand what we're turning over to the Park District. Does that take place this year, and then the actual transfer will take place in the subsequent year, or will both the inclusion of the redrawing of the lines be accomplished at the same time or in the same fiscal year as the transfer of the field to the Park District?
I'm anticipating that both will be accomplished this year.
Okay. And then with regard to the Williams Road Bridge, I know that there's like no real good ingress and egress for recreational canoeists and kayakers. And I was just wondering, as part of this project, whether we could improve that situation and maybe remove some of the riprap that is kind of really difficult to move a boat, or if from in and out of the water, and whether or not recreationally we could accommodate the people that kayak and canoe up and down the river, and maybe change that feature so that it was a little more suitable for portaging.
I can take a look at that with our engineer and see what might be able to be done within the right of way there.
Okay, that'd be great. And then with regard to the solar, I know when Alderman Wilson and I met with you, he had expressed wondering about whether or not the city could evaluate any of its open areas. I mean, you see in a lot of other communities where they have fields where they collect and generate solar energy, and I just wonder if we would expand upon our evaluation to be able to look at some of the open areas in Warrenville where we might be able to generate solar power and increase our revenue by utilizing some of the open spaces that the city owns.
We could look into that. I would have to understand more what we would do with that. I mean, if it's similar to the roof of the Public Works building, if it's putting solar panels to generate electricity and where you can get credits back toward our street lighting, for instance, and expenses we have with ComEd, that might be worthwhile. Just we'd have to look into that a little bit more and see if what that works. I think that we'll have to talk with ComEd and understand how that works with generating more power that we're not using ourselves.
I see a number of other communities, I think mainly up north, where there's like a large field of solar collectors, and I just, I don't know if we were in contact with those other communities that that do that, but they might be an additional resource besides Commonwealth Edison too, as you look into this.
Sure.
And then finally, a subject that's near and dear to my heart is the tree program and the tree policy. And I was just wondering whether or not we'd be able to take a look at that before next December, because with the presentation of the Davy inventory not taking place for 16 months and now waiting until next December, that's nearly like a 3-year span in time before we evaluate and consider policy and ordinance changes. And I think it would be beneficial to look at it a little bit sooner than 3 years, because the last inventory we did kind of got stale because we weren't able to place it on any kind of continuum and keep it up to date. And so I was hoping that maybe in the near future we'd be able to at least provide the council with information about the existing program and policies and the state of affairs as far as the tree program goes. Because as you know, we're in a deficit program and have been since the Emerald Ash Borer came through and removed caused us to remove lots of trees. And I just wonder whether we could move that up and have a council discussion on the current state of the tree maintenance and program.
If it's something that council wants me to prioritize over some of the other stuff we've got going on, I can certainly do that. We've got, as you saw with the various construction projects, trying to make sure those move along so we maintain our funding. There's quite a bit of work we've got going on that are high priorities as well, tied to things. But if council wants to prioritize that over some other things, I would be happy to move it up.
Well, I would basically be in favor of that. I don't know how the chairperson wants to, handle this as far as taking a roll call to see if other people would like to be brought up to date on the state of the current policies and ordinance. But I think it would be very worthwhile, especially as we're looking at climate changes, and many municipalities are changing their programs and things like that because they see it as a way in the future to help alleviate some of the stressors and strains that communities will be taking on as a result of the climate change.
Well, I think we would need a consensus to be able to move that forward. And then I think we would have to look at this and see if we would have to change something from a tier 1 possibly and move that. So I think that's something that I think Phil would probably have to look over the work plan, first of all, to see if we could make some changes to that first.
I was just wondering whether or not we could just have an informational update and a council discussion on the current policies and ordinances that are in place, and then and have that sooner rather than later.
Christina, you had a...
Yes, I would just add if the council has, if there's council consensus to look at prioritizing that program, I would suggest that council direct staff to evaluate where and what might be moved around in the work program as it exists currently, and bring it back. Because it's not as simple, unfortunately, as swapping one thing for another. There's a different variety of tasks and time involved, and some things, as Phil mentioned, especially in Tier 1, have dedicated deadlines and timelines or grants associated, and different staff that are involved. So I think that would be the request of staff would be to have us go back and take a look and see what's possible to be moved.
And again, I'm not asking for a programmatic programming change to his budget. I'm just asking for an informational presentation and update. So we may be speaking of two different things, something that's in the budget versus something that would just be the Director of Public Works apprising us of the current state of affairs with the tree maintenance program and so forth.
Maybe it would be possible for us to have a presentation at the next Public Works and Infrastructure Committee of the Whole meeting. Would that be satisfactory, Alderman Widener?
Yeah, I think it would be good to, have the other council members weigh in though to make sure they agree with me. I don't want to just, have a command performance if it's not in the best interest of the city and the other aldermen don't agree with me.
Okay, so why don't we check with staff to see if they would be able to do something like that. I'm sure that the other aldermen wouldn't mind an update every 5 weeks, because that's pretty much actually how we kind of do this, is about every 2 months. So, but I can go through a roll call and see who would be interested in go through the aldermen and see who would be interested in having this put on the schedule for Public Works. Do you understand, Phil? Okay, that we would do something possibly in April, and then I'd see how much work it would be for you time-wise, April, and then maybe get one on maybe every other meeting or every meeting, just a short presentation and see what the updates are. Would that be something you can handle? Okay. Alderman Ashauer, what are your thoughts?
I think I'd just like to see it wait until after the budget process is done, and then see what's involved in making sure it works. I don't see anything we have to hurry into, and we've got plans that have had a lot of effort put into them, and I don't have any trouble with them the way they're presented. Certainly we can add something later, but let's get through that first.
So you're recommending after the budget?
Yes.
Okay. Alderman Davalos?
Thank you. Yeah, I'm very interested in this topic, but I will say that Alderman Ashauer's idea isn't a bad one right now. It seems like a very busy time. But right now, and maybe it's my own ignorance or forgetting what was already presented, I would just like an update on where we are, not even how we're going to solve it or what we're going to do going forward. I think that's going to take a little more time, and periodic updates, I think, are fine. I would just like, and maybe not even, I mean, somebody on your staff probably already knows the answers to all this. I mean, where are we now? How short are we? I can't remember the deficit numbers. How do we replace them now? How is it funded? Just sort of as a baseline, so as we go forward, we have something. I just need to know where we are. And so that might be an easy first presentation. It's not calling for new ideas yet, it's just calling where are we? And maybe quickly, where are the big challenges? What is the Public Works Director concerned about as we face the problem? Just to be thinking about it. So I'd like to go forward, but I also want to honor what's already on our plate. But I definitely am committed in the end. Maybe we work toward a place where we all have the same information later in the year, and then we can really go forward, maybe trying to problem solve this or figure out with the budget or what we want to do the next budget year, something. But I feel like I'm not even prepared to have that discussion. I'm more prepared to listen to where we are now. Thanks.
Okay, Alderman Goodman?
Yeah, there are two issues. Alderman Widener would like to know where things stand, but he also wanted to perhaps change the department work plan and reprioritize this to a higher tier item. And if we are going to approve a department work plan with the budget, then that does seem like a somewhat more urgent question for staff to consider that we would need to talk about before the budget. Whereas the informational presentation part of it, I agree with Alderman Ashour, can probably wait until after. So those are my thoughts.
Thank you. Alderman Krischel?
Yeah, I'm looking at the initiatives, and I mean, it sounds like what we're asking for is to move this up, which, I don't know if it falls into the tier 1 initiatives, and I mean, if it does, then what are we going to take away, right? And so that's kind of where I'm having a struggle here trying to figure that out. So if we just if the ask is to come back and give us an update on the existing program, I'm okay with that. But if we're asking, for Public Works to come back with, looking for direction, I don't think I'm there. So.
Okay. Thank you. Alderman Kirkenberg?
I think where I'm standing, I think I would like to get a little bit more information. I'm very much in favor of, kind of seeing where we're at. I'm not sure right now I want to change the order of importance or whatever, but I'd like to kind of get some assessment as far as what's going on with the program, and maybe we can make a determination later.
Okay, so you would be willing to do something after the budget?
More informational, not necessarily changing the priority for now.
But a presentation after the budget is completed?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that would be okay with me.
Okay. And Alderman Lockett?
Yeah, I would want to wait till after the budget too, considering not knowing what is ahead. But hearing from others that there's a lot entailed, so maybe the efforts would be better focused on the issue at hand with the budget. But it is definitely something I'm interested, but maybe it should just wait till after the budget's done.
Thank you. I would also like to wait until after the budget's completed. I'd like to see where we're at and make sure that the Public Works Department plan is going to be able to be done as to what Phil has got listed out here as of right now. So I think the consensus from the other aldermen seems to be after the budget. Alderman Widener, are you okay with that?
Yes, I just would not want to wait until next December, because then we're 4 years away from the inventory that we had done, and by the time we have a chance to come up with any solutions or suggestions for improvement, you're talking about an extensive amount of time into future budget years. So if we could have it, in April or sometime after the budget was completed, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you. So the budget is completed in April, correct? So, and that's when the next Public Works and Infrastructure meeting would be in April. So yes, that's what I was thinking. So it would probably be in the June meeting. And Director Kukler, would you be okay with that as to bringing forth a presentation on many of the questions that Alderman Davalos had and the information also that Alderman Widener is looking for?
Yeah, June would work well because I think that would time well with Management Analyst Young Meyer's update to the kind of green initiatives. She does an annual update that falls in June as well.
Okay, great. Okay, so we're asking Public Works to do put this on their agenda for their June Public Works and Infrastructure meeting then. Okay? Good, thank you. Are there any other questions for Director Kukler? Okay. Thank you again for that presentation. It was great. This was information only, and we do not need any motions. So on to number 3, consideration of preliminary engineering contract for Route 59 multi-use paths project prior to approval of the FY 2023 budget. And that would be the senior civil engineer, Christine Hocking.
Hello, thank you, everyone. This item is to recommend a consultant contract for the preliminary engineering of the Route 59 multi-use path project. There are a few council members that are new, and as well as it would probably be a good recap of where this project came from, the history of it. I've outlined it in my memo, but I'll go briefly over that. It began back with the bikeway implementation plan that was created and adopted by City Council in 2010. That bikeway implementation plan was then revised in 2016 to include the segments along Route 59 within the City of Warrenville limits, obviously. This bikeway implementation plan identifies segments and areas where there are no paths or sidewalks, and areas where there's some priorities to add these sidewalks to it. So the segment on Route 59 from Batavia to Continental Meadow in that addendum was identified as the highest priority along the Route 59 segment due to multiple factors, such as the speed limit on 59, obviously the traffic volume. There are a number of accidents reported along 59, pedestrian accidents, and accessibility. There are IDOT recently did a project, upgraded some of the ADA ramps along the sidewalks, but there are other issues with driveway crossings, etc. So this project was proposed in that plan to add sidewalks or paths along both sides of Route 59 along those limits, installation of handicap accessible ramps, replacement of existing sidewalk, adding new storm sewers, and relocation of signs and utility poles. A small portion of this project may require easement acquisition. However, we won't know how much or what properties are exactly affected until we go into the preliminary engineering and identify those segments. So after that addendum was adopted, City Council directed staff in 2017 to look for grant funding for this segment. And in 2020, the city was awarded Surface Transportation, or STP, funding. As Phil had mentioned in his presentation, that would cover 75% of the construction and construction engineering costs. In my memo, I identified estimates for all phases of this project. Because it's STP funded, it will have to go through an IDOT design process, which includes preliminary engineering, final engineering, and then obviously construction. So we call them 3 phases. The preliminary and final engineering is not paid with using STP funds. It is all locally provided for. So that's how that's shown in the spreadsheet or in the chart. Easement acquisition is the same way, but once you get to construction and engineering, the costs are split 75% for federal and 25% local. So in total, for all phases, this is a $1.4 million project with approximately $617,000 of local funds used and $71,000 of STP or federal funding. You can identify on the chart the city budgets that we're proposing for this project. General Street, the general fund for the local ones, and then MFT, or the motor fuel tax funding that we get, as Phil had mentioned before. The reason why we're presenting this at this time is because staff was notified in summer of last year by the DuPage Mayor and Managers Conference that a kickoff meeting with IDOT would need to be held before March 14th in order to keep our STP funding. So Because of that, we obviously included a decision package in the FY23 budget for the majority of the costs, but we need to start that process. We needed to start that process before the FY23 year began. So city staff reached out to 3 consultants and asked for it's called a request for qualifications. Every consultant sends in their qualifications for this preliminary engineering contract, and staff takes a look at those qualifications and identifies the most capable consultant that covers everything that we're requesting as part of the scope and has a good track record, obviously, with IDOT, because as we've found out with Mac Road and the Trailhead project, IDOT can sometimes slow down a project, and it's really nice to have a consultant that really knows the IDOT staff, that really knows the procedures, the design manuals, and have gone through this hundreds and hundreds of times. So staff identified Baxter and Woodman as the most capable consultants for this work. This contract is for the preliminary engineering. Like I said before, it's the phase 1 engineering for this project. We negotiated, knowing what the scope was and what the approximate budget that we would have for FY23. We negotiated a cost estimate with that consultant that's also included in the backup materials for this agenda item. And staff does recommend that the committee recommends to City Council to approve the contract with Baxter and Woodman for, it's going to be $104,833 for the preliminary engineering. I have to say that we have all the scope items in this contract. There will be in FY23 potentially an additional, potentially like a change order, because once we identify the easements that we need, we have to create plats. And so we didn't want to add in, let's call it 10 plats when it would only be 2. So just giving you that heads up, that's why the decision package for this project is actually more than 104,000, and it's actually, I believe it's 120,000. So with that, I will take any questions.
Great, thank you. All right, we'll go through the list. Mayor Brummel.
Thank you. Thank you, Christine. I think this is a great project. I appreciate all the efforts going into making it a reality at some point in the future, and I fully support moving ahead with it. A lot of people will benefit from sidewalks up there. It's quite a dangerous situation. We've had people killed trying to cross the road to give them access to moving up and down, north and south on the sidewalk, especially in the areas that are indicated. I think is a very worthy project. So again, thank you for helping us get this together and getting it going.
Thank you. Alderman Ashour.
Thanks for the very thorough explanation. I support the project.
Thank you. I also too support this project. I know the Bicycle and Pedestrian Commission will be very happy when this starts. Alderman Davalos.
Yes, I am also in favor of this project, and I just want to thank you for the actually incredible amount of grant funding we've gotten for this. This is what you guys do so well, and you really did it well this time. So thank you very much.
Alderman Goodman.
Yes, I want to echo what Alderman Davalos said about the grant funding. 2 small questions. Just based on the map that you provided, it looks like perhaps near the entrance of Winchester might be some areas where easements are needed. How much coordination have we done with them yet? I can't imagine they would be opposed to this. They must like the idea.
Correct. So to this date, we have not, I think when we were first applying for the STB funding, we might have reached out to all the property owners asking for support. They didn't provide a letter that's not saying, it was just, if you guys want to provide something. We received something from the apartments, the Sunny Apartments actually on the west side, in support of the project. So that's the most we've done so far. But however, as part of the preliminary engineering scope, a public meeting most likely will be required as part of the IDOT process. At that time, we will have a public meeting, do the reach out to all of the property owners that would be affected. At that time, we still wouldn't know for sure if easement acquisition would be. We would have an idea. We can't negotiate at that point. That happens in final engineering, but we most likely will be able to identify if the easement acquisition is required based upon where are the best alternative for the location of the sidewalk or path would be. Similar to some other projects, GIS parcel lines also may not be exactly accurate. We found that out with Mac Road. So we have to do that plat information and really figure out if those parcel lines do jut out into Route 59.
Okay, my second question just has to do with sort of connections to existing sidewalks. You know, in front of the Walgreens, for example, there is an existing sidewalk. You know, the Winchester sidewalk, I think, ends very, very short of the highway. They have a little sidewalk that goes over next to the Dunkin' Donuts, I think. But that, I see that on this aerial photograph, and it's quite far from the roadway. So how much intention is there to connect, you know, where possible, to existing bits of sidewalk that exist?
Right. So starting with the areas by Batavia Road, so the Walgreens, even the sidewalks on the west side with the McDonald's, etc. We would, depending on what was the best alternative and depending on, you know, location, we would either upgrade those sidewalks to an actual path, an 8-foot path or 10-foot, if that fit in there. So we would replace those or connect those to the new path along Route 59. In terms of the paths coming from the east and west sides of the residential neighborhoods, yes, that would make the most sense to include that as part of this project when feasible, or if it wasn't allowed under the IDOT STP rules, work with Public Works and identify those segments that, you know, needed a little connection.
Okay, I mean, it's possible that some property owners would want to connect and would take that opportunity to do so, especially the businesses, but, you know, who knows, the residential areas too. It certainly would increase pedestrian safety if they were all connected up neatly. Thank you very much for your work on this.
Thank you. Alderman Kerschel.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm in favor of this project, and I would hate to wait and miss out on funding. So yeah, I support this.
Thank you. Alderman Kruckenberg.
Just wanted to say thank you to Christine for a very thorough explanation. I'm very excited about this project and very much in support. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Lockett.
Very much in favor as well. It's needed. I mean, you see kids running across that 59 all the time playing Frogger, Leap Chicken, whatever. But very, very much needed. So thank you, Christine.
And Alderman Widener.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Hocking, for a very specific and detailed explanation, and also your pursuit of trying to get as much outside funding support for this project that will greatly improve Warrenville's walkability score, and I think it will improve our local access to the commercial and business districts in Warrenville, and, you know, again, make us a little more bicycle and pedestrian friendly. Thank you for your work. And I may have missed the dates, but if we were to project when the actual construction might take place or be finished, what would be, not to hold you to things, because I know there's always things like strikes and weather and everything like that can delay a plan, but what would be your best guess as far as when this project might be in the ground?
So I believe we have it potentially beginning in I believe we have it FY 25. So, you know, that can be, it most likely will begin in the later part of FY 25. So actually 2025, I would guess, just the way that some of the projects right now are going.
Great, can't happen soon enough. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we would need a motion for this. Somebody be willing to do that?
This is Alderman Davalos. I'd like to recommend the City Council pass a resolution approving the engineering agreement with Baxter and Woodman Incorporated for the preliminary Phase 1 engineering design of the Route 59 multi-use paths project in the amount of $104,833.
Second, Alderman Ashour.
We have a motion by Alderman Davalos and a second by Alderman Ashour. Clerk Gravetti, could you please read the roll call?
Alderman Goodman?
I vote aye, but I want to note that the schedule and the agreement that we're approving says that the IDOT letting would be around November 2023. So maybe that timeline wasn't quite.
Yeah.
But I vote aye.
Mm-hmm.
Alderman Lockett?
Aye.
Alderman Weidner?
Aye.
Alderman Krutzenberg?
Aye.
Alderman Chrisell?
Aye.
Alderman Berry?
Aye.
Alderman Ashaw?
Aye.
Alderman Davalos?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. On to number 4, consideration of bid letting and construction engineering for 2022 construction projects prior to approval of the FY 2023 budget. That would be Public Works Director Phil Kukler, please.
Thank you. As we do every year, staff is requesting authorization to seek bids for the 2022 road program before the fiscal year 23 budget is approved. It's staff's experience over the last 25 years or so that advertising for bids in the late winter months or early spring yields better contract prices for the road program because contractors are hungry early in the season before they have any projects under their belts, and we're just get more competitive bids. And as I mentioned in my budget presentation, the program will consist of the east side streets east of Winfield Road and north of Galusha. And with that, I'd be happy to entertain any questions.
Thank you. Mayor Brummel.
No questions. Just glad we're doing it. That's what we do is we take care of our roads.
Thank you. Alderman Ashour.
No questions.
Thank you. I have no questions. Alderman Davalos.
I have no questions either, thanks.
Thank you. Alderman Goodman.
Nothing from me.
Thank you. Alderman Chrisell.
No questions.
Alderman Kruckenberg.
No questions.
Alderman Lockett.
Just one quick question. Is there any way for us to put into the specifications something in regards to price increases due to the asphalt? I'm just a little concerned, right, on knowing in the world what's happening, and just didn't want the low bidder to come back at a later date, stating reasons that were out of their control, so to speak, coming back for more money or somewhat of a change order.
I can check with the city attorney, but I think once they're under contract, I'm not sure they have the ability to come back and raise their prices on our side. So,
yeah, I think it has something to do with the total amount if it fluctuates more than a certain percentage over X amount of time. But I do know that other municipalities and stuff will lock them down, basically stating that, you're moving the risk onto the contractor and letting them take it and bid accordingly with what they feel is going to happen for the year. And this year more than ever, I'm just a little concerned with what petroleum and oil and asphalt prices might do. So just a way just to cover the city.
yeah, I'll double check with the city attorney and see what our current contract language is and see if it covers that. But I've never experienced where the contractor's been able to come back and increase prices because of that.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Alderman Widener.
Yes, Director Kukler, does this cover any sidewalks or is it strictly roads?
It's strictly roads, and I'm trying to think. I don't think there's any sidewalks on the east side and on those streets in that area.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We would need a motion, please.
This is Alderman Davalos. I'd like to recommend the City Council accept staff recommendation and authorize staff to advertise for bids for the 2022 road program project prior to formal approval of the fiscal year 2023 budget.
Second, Alderman Ashour.
We have a motion by Alderman Davalos and a second by Alderman Ashour. Clerk Gravetti, could you please read the roll?
Alderman Krickenberg,
Aye. Aye.
Alderman Devereaux,
Aye.
Alderman Berry,
Aye.
Alderman Chrisell,
Aye.
Alderman Goodman,
Aye.
Alderman Lockett,
Aye.
Alderman Widener,
Aye.
Alderman Ashaw.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Okay, on to number 5. Consideration to order excavator prior to the approval of the FY 2023 budget. Director Kukler, please.
Thank you again. City's existing excavator is due for replacement in fiscal year 23, so staff has included funding in the proposed budget to replace it. Staff was recently notified by the vendor that if the city does not place an order in February, the price of the excavator will go up by $6,000 due to supply chain issues. The cost of the excavator is $119,935, and the current value of the trade-in is $30,000. The new excavator will not be delivered until at least May. I mean, we've experienced that with other vehicles and equipment. It just takes, everything seems to take a while right now to be delivered. And the city would not pay for it until it's delivered. Staff's requesting authorization or place the order for the excavator now in advance of approval of the budget, but obviously we wouldn't spend any money on it until sometime after May 1st. So with that, I'd be happy to entertain any questions.
Okay. Mayor Brummel.
Seems like a good thing to do, Phil. I support your approach.
Thank you. Alderman Ashour.
I support it as long as the hours on the machine and the condition of it warrant it.
Okay, thank you. I agree. Saving $6,000 is very important at this time. Alderman Davalos.
I agree also. Thank you.
Alderman Goodman.
No questions from me.
Alderman Chrisell.
No questions. I'm good with it. Thanks.
Okay. Alderman Kruckenberg.
I'm good with it. Thank you.
Okay. Alderman Lockett.
I have no issues. Thank you.
Okay. And Alderman Widener.
No questions or comments. Thank you.
Thank you. So all we would need is a motion, please.
This is Alderman Davalos. I recommend the City Council pass an ordinance approving the purchase of an excavator from Atlas Bobcat LLC for $119,935 and authorizing the disposition of surplus personal property.
Second, Alderman Ashour.
Thank you. We have a motion by Alderman Davalos and a second by Alderman Ashour. Clerk Gravetti, could you please read the roll call?
Alderman Lockett,
Aye.
Alderman Chrisell,
Aye.
Alderman Davalos,
Aye.
Alderman Widener,
Aye.
Alderman Ashaw,
Aye.
Alderman Kruckenberg,
Aye.
Alderman Berry,
Aye.
and Alderman Goodman.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Number 6, discussion of committee and aldermanic assignments list. This will be done by Assistant City Administrator Christina White.
Thank you. With the recent resignation of former Alderman Anderson and Wilson, there were several aldermanic liaison assignments that were left vacant. Included in the backup material of your agenda packet is a list of those assignments and the vacancies indicated. At this time, we've brought it forward for council discussion or committee discussion to consider filling those vacancies. If the committee wishes to fill them, there should be a vote on recommending someone to fill each position individually. Thank you.
Okay, I'll just go through the list, and if you are interested in something, please make a comment. If you're not, then you have nothing to say, I guess. Alderman Ashour. Alderman Ashour? No comment?
I'm sorry, I didn't have my mic turned on. The Fayroll Dam inspections and reports, I would like to be on that committee, possibly with Alderman Lockett if he's interested.
Okay.
Other than that, the other ones that I'm on are fine. There's some vacancies on them. Most of them are in my ward. There might be a natural fit for the new alderman to be part of that.
Okay. Thank you. I'm fine with everything the way it is at the moment. Alderman Davalos.
Thank you. Yeah, I've been looking at this list and thinking about a couple things. I think some of these positions are vacant because they involve a lot of staff and it needs to have daytime availability, which is really hard, I know, for some of you. I do have daytime availability, so I'm sort of looking at this with that in mind and sort of volunteering maybe to take some of these things. I also think there's things I could rotate off that are evening, and that might help. And I'm just sort of, I've also, like Alderman Asher was just saying about Ward 1, I am interested in maybe going on something that has to do with Ward 3. And the things I guess I'm thinking of daytime maybe are that, let me look at my list here. Where am I? Oh my gosh, I lost my place. The one with the long-range planning, financial planning is something that probably has to be during the day. And the Old Time Redevelopment Site number 2, the gas station is in Ward 3, but I'm not sure if that has wrapped up enough not to need someone else. Maybe Mayor Brummel knows about that. Anyway, so that's my comments. I also don't want to get in the way of the new aldermen picking things that they would like. So I'm willing to wait and see what everybody says. Thank you.
Okay. Alderman Goodman.
Yes, I want to mention that there's one item on this list without a vacancy where I just want to bring it up for discussion tonight. I've had a discussion with the Friendly Lab Community Advisory Board about having the mayor be my alternate, and I discussed this with the mayor today, and he said he was fine with that. So just to get this one out of the way, I would like to make a motion to designate the mayor as the alternate for the Friendly Lab Community Advisory Board.
Okay.
Second.
I do have a couple thoughts on other things, but I just thought I'd get this one out of the way first.
And the mayor, you're fine with this? Okay, that's a thumbs up, I see. Okay, we would need a roll call on this since the motion and the second has been made. A motion by Alderman Goodman and the second by Alderman Davalos. Clerk Gravetti, could you please read the roll call on this?
Just one moment.
Do you understand the motion? You have that?
Yeah, I was just trying to find which item it was on the list here again. But it's Fermi Lab.
The Fermi Lab Community Advisory Board.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, and Alderman Goodman, is the citizen Dan Leonard still going to be listed there?
No, this would
He's being removed, and you're staying on, and
yes.
Oh, okay. And the alternate is the mayor instead of Dan Leonard.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. All right.
Thank you. Alderman Widener.
I'm fine with the way things are presented. If there's any discussion regarding openings that might need to be filled, I'd consider. But
Right now, we're just we're just voting on this one motion, just to.
oh, I'm sorry. I'm
That's
sorry.
okay. It got a little confusing.
Yes.
The mayor
I
is
vote
going to
aye.
be becoming the alternate with
got
Alderman Goodman on the Fermilab Community Advisory Board.
All right. Congratulations to the mayor, and I vote aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Ashour.
Aye.
Alderman Lockett.
Aye.
Alderman Berry.
Aye.
Alderman Davalos.
Aye.
Alderman Chrisell.
Aye.
Alderman Goodman.
Aye.
Alderman Kruckenberg.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Okay. Anything else, Alderman Goodman?
Yes, I think that Alderman Davalos is exactly right about daytime availability, the long-range financial planning work group, and I was going to ask her if she would be willing to join that group, so I think that sounds like a great idea. As I think I said once before, if the Illinois Prairie Path Trailhead work group has any further meetings and needs that vacancy to be filled, I'd be willing to step up for that one, but I believe the last time we discussed this, I said that there would probably be no further meetings with that work group, in which case I'm fine with it. So
I'm sorry, you said the Illinois Prairie Path Trailhead work group? Is that what you were talking about?
that's the one.
Okay.
But if there are no further meetings, then we may not need to fill that vacancy at all.
Okay. Alderman Chrisell.
I have no changes. I'm good with it the way it is, minus the changes that were brought up already.
Okay. Alderman Kruckenberg.
I had a chance to talk with Alderman Berry, and I'm interested in the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Commission, if she was willing to switch to something else. And I'm also interested in the Old Town redevelopment site if there's need for me there. I would ask the mayor about that. And also the Community Development Committee as well.
Now, where is that on the list? I'm sorry.
Oh, I guess I'm looking at the first page. Maybe that's not a.
Yeah, that one's already
not one of
that's
the-
already filled. It's
Oh,
it's just the items that are on under aldermanic
Yep.
liaison assignments.
Yeah. Okay. And then I guess it was just those two, unless there's, help that's needed for anything else.
Okay, yes, both, I mean, Alderman Kruckenberg and myself had a discussion earlier today regarding the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Commission, and he did express some interest in that. I'm willing to hand this over to him. We're right in the middle of doing the bike rodeo, which will be in May. So we're in the process of developing that right now and coming to some conclusions on how that will happen. So I would like to stay on that along with Alderman Kruckenberg until that is complete. So, but at that time, then I would be willing to hand this over to him. Do you want to make a motion for that? Okay, so we should make a motion. Okay, yes, your mic was not on. Go ahead.
I would suggest that Alderman Kruckenberg, if there is a motion and committee approval, that Alderman Kruckenberg become effective on the BPAC Commission as of June 1st. Alderman Berry stays on through then. Alderman Kruckenberg, you'd be obviously welcome to attend the meetings as a member of the public. In the meantime, just to observe and participate in that way, but then there is a clean transition from one alderman to the next as liaisons to that commission.
So you would like a motion right now for us to do that since this is a change, okay, and not just a filling in of a vacancy. Alderman Goodman? Yes.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to designate Alderman Kruckenberg as the Bicyclist and Pedestrian Advisory Commission liaison effective June 1st.
Second, Alderman Davalos.
Okay, we have a motion and by Alderman Goodman and a second by Alderman Davalos. Clerk Gravetti, could you please read the roll call?
Alderman Chrisell.
Aye.
Alderman Goodman.
Aye.
Alderman Kruckenberg.
Aye.
Alderman Lockett.
Aye.
Alderman Widener.
Aye.
Alderman Ashaw.
Aye.
Alderman Davalos.
Aye.
Alderman Berry.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, great, thank you. Alderman Kruckenberg, you had something else that you were interested in?
If there's still, yeah, I was interested in the Old Town redevelopment, site number 2.
Okay, all right, I have your name down for that, all right. And anything else before I go on to Alderman Lockett?
I would be open to other things if there was need. I guess I don't know, how much heavy lifting are necessary in some of these, like the Riggy Road, Barclay Avenue dedication. I mean, is there much to do with any of those? There's some of them that I'm not sure what the workload would be. I guess I'd like to know a little more information on some of those. Maybe the Point Oak Drive Utilities extension.
Okay, Director Kugler will answer those questions for you. Go ahead.
Sure. So for the Riggy Road and Barclay issue, I think we're probably going to end up meeting one more time once we get the signed easement agreements from the residents, and then we'd circle back with the aldermen who are assigned to work with us and to discuss it and then develop a recommendation for council. And it'd probably just be that one more meeting, I think, at this point, unless something goes haywire and the residents aren't in agreement. And then the Point Oak Drive is a little more complex and is probably a longer term issue as we work our way through that issue down the road. So I'd say the Point Oak Drive is probably a little more heavy lifting, and a little bit longer term. The Riggy Road is and Barclay Avenue dedication is much shorter term, or probably one meeting.
I guess I would be interested in the Point Oak Drive Utilities extension if no one else is.
So, Director Kugler, the Riggy Road and the Barclay. Now, do we need to have 2 aldermen for that? Correct?
We don't necessarily need 2 aldermen for it. We have had it in the past. I think Alderman Bevere was on it before, and then Alderman Anderson took over when Alderman Bevere resigned. It could just remain Alderman Ashart's way what the council decides you want to do.
Okay, because since you only have maybe one more meeting. Okay.
Alderman Ashar, can I make a comment, please?
Yes, sir.
I would like to make one too.
Okay, Alderman
Just-
Bauer first.
The Point Oak Drive, and no disrespect intended, but that's Ward 1, and they're going to be calling the Ward 1 alderman regarding those issues. So it might be best that Ward 1 aldermen are on that committee.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll.
I understand.
Okay, we'll kind of ask Alderman Lockett when we get to him. Okay. All right. So then, Alderman Davalos, you had your hand up.
Yes, I just want to add one more thing. Because I think I'm going to end up volunteering, or if everybody agrees, to do the long-range planning. I have other things on here, and I'd like to stay with environmental advisory. It might be time for me, because of this daytime availability, to rotate off the 4th of July. And that might be something of interest to one of the two aldermen. They meet once a month, and it's a very good team. The mayor is a resource for that team also. But it's very important. It's one of the, as we all know, it's one of the major events that people look forward to. And and there's a lot of good people on there. And I think it's an interesting team to be on. I just think I have to make some choices if I'm going to do daytime stuff. So anyway, I'm just throwing that out if it helps anybody. Thank you.
Okay, so is there anything else, Alderman Crookenberg, before I go to Alderman Lockett?
I would be interested in the 4th of July committee.
Okay. Okay. All right. Now, Alderman Lockett. Finally, we get to you.
Yes, here we are.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking the natural fits, kind of what Alderman Ashour already alluded to, but the dam inspection and reports, Point Oak Drive, and the Riggy Road, like you said, there's only one meeting. If it has to be two, that's fine. Those are all Ward 1 things that I'd be willing to do. I too was thinking Old Town redevelopment, but again, there's plenty of others there. And then maybe the EMRP work group I'd be interested in too.
Okay. So, and we have you down for the Faywell Dam inspections and the Point Oak Drive, the EMRP work group, and the Riggy Road and Barclay Avenue dedication. All right. Anything else? Or I think you've had enough.
Yeah, that's good. That's good for now.
That's good. All right. All right. Now, what would you like to do here? You do? Well, what can we do this? Can we go through all of these and then make one motion for all of them, or we have to make them?
Don't forget Bell.
They have to be individual. Mm-hmm. Alderman Goodman, you have a comment?
Don't forget to call on Bell.
Yes, I'm sorry. Alderman Widener.
Yeah, I'm satisfied with the assignments that I'm currently involved in. If the Illinois Prairie Path Group ever meets or has plans to become active again, I would be interested in that post. Thank you.
Okay. So what do we have to do? Go through each one of these individually. Okay, so we have, yes, Faywell Dam. We need a motion for Alderman Ashour and Alderman Lockett to be the representatives.
I'd like to make a motion to designate Alderman Lockett and Alderman Ashour as the Faywell Dam Inspections and Reports Liaison.
Second.
Alderman Ashour.
Mm-hmm. No, Alderman Ashour. Can Alderman Ashour second that since it's his name? Doesn't matter. Oh, I'm sorry. What did you say? Okay. Okay, we have a motion by Alderman Goodman and a second by Alderman Ashour. Clerk Gravetti, could you please read the roll call, please?
I still want to make sure that we're talking about the Faywell Dam inspections reports, and this is Alderman Ashour and Alderman Lockett, correct?
Correct.
All right, let me get that down here first.
And then it was motion by Goodman and second by Ashour.
Thank you. Okay, Alderman Davalos.
Aye.
Alderman Berry.
Aye.
Alderman Goodman.
Aye.
Alderman Ashour.
Aye.
Alderman Lockett.
Aye.
Alderman Widener.
Aye.
Alderman Kruttenberg.
Aye.
Alderman Chrisell.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Great. Then
I think I've got all these. Shall I keep going?
yes, the next one would be Point Oak Drive Utilities for Alderman Ashour and Alderman Lockett.
I'd like to make a motion to designate Alderman Lockett to fill the vacancy on the Point Oak Drive Utilities Extension Liaison.
Second, Alderman Ashour.
Okay, we have a motion by Alderman Goodman and a second by Alderman Ashour. That's for the Point Oak Drive Utility Extension, adding Alderman Lockett. Clerk Rivetti?
Alderman Goodman.
Aye.
Alderman Lockett.
Aye.
Alderman Widener.
Aye.
Alderman Kruttenberg.
Aye.
Alderman Chrisell.
Aye.
Alderman Berry.
Aye.
Alderman Ashour.
Aye.
Alderman Davalos.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Okay, now on to the long-range financial planning. Alderman Davalos is adding her name. We need a motion. Alderman Goodman, would you like to make that motion?
I'd like to make a motion to designate Alderman Davalos to fill the vacancy on the Long Range Financial Planning Work Group.
Second, Alderman Ashour.
Thank you. Kirk Gravetti, could you please read the roll call? That was a motion by Alderman Goodman and a second by Alderman Ashour.
Alderman Kruttenberg.
Aye.
Alderman Davalos.
Aye.
Alderman Berry.
Aye.
Alderman Chrisell.
Aye.
Alderman Goodman.
Aye.
Alderman Lockett.
Aye.
Alderman Widener.
Aye.
Alderman Ashour.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. Now to the Friends of the 4th of July Committee. Alderman Davalos is removing her name, and Alderman Kruckenberg will be replacing Alderman Davalos. Alderman Goodman, do you have a motion?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to designate Alderman Kruckenberg instead of Alderman Davalos on the Friends of the 4th of July Committee.
Alderman Widener seconds.
I'm sorry, I didn't get who the second was.
Alderman Widener seconds. I think Alderman Davalos was trying to second at the same time, so take your pick.
Okay. Alderman Goodman made the motion. Alderman Widener is second. Clerk Rivetti, could you please read the roll?
Alderman Lockett.
Aye.
Alderman Chrisell.
Aye.
Alderman Davalos.
Aye.
Alderman Widener.
Aye.
Alderman Ashour.
Aye.
Alderman Kruttenberg.
Aye.
Alderman Berry.
Aye.
Alderman Goodman.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Now the EMRP work group. I'm sorry.
I'd like to make a motion to designate Alderman Lockett to fill the vacancy on the EMRP work group.
Second, Alderman Ashour.
Okay. This is for the EMRP work group. We have a motion by Alderman Goodman and a second by Alderman Ashour. Clerk Gravetti, please read the roll.
And that was putting Alderman Lockett in place there?
Yes, putting Alderman Lockett into the vacant space.
Alderman Widener,
Aye.
Alderman Ashour,
Aye.
Alderman Lockett,
Aye.
Alderman Berry,
Aye.
Alderman Davalos,
Aye.
Alderman Crucial,
Aye.
Alderman Goodman,
Aye.
Alderman Krockenberg.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. It appears I skipped the Illinois Prairie Path Trailhead Work Group. Alderman Goodman would like to add her name. So Alderman.
I don't think,
Hmm?
I don't think staff feels we need a motion on this one if the work group is defunct. That's my understanding, that we don't need to do anything with that. So I'll go on, I'll make the motion.
Wait a minute. Hold on.
I've talked with Administrator Coakley about this, and he led me to believe that they probably didn't need another person because it was that function was going away since most of the planning and funding's been done, and we're just waiting to start. But I'm just telling you about that conversation, and maybe Assistant Administrator White can clear it up better than I can.
Yes.
No, Alderman Davalos, you stated it perfectly. That group is essentially finished at this point. The project is moving forward, so I don't think they have a need to meet.
Okay, well, we'll just leave Alderman Widener's name on there. Okay, where are we? Here we are. Is it Regi Road and Barclay Avenue? Alderman Lockett will fill the vacancy along with Alderman Ashour. We need a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to designate Alderman Lockett to fill the vacancy on the Rigi Road Barclay Avenue dedication.
Second.
Okay. I don't know who that was. Okay. This one we'll give to Alderman Widener. And we have a motion by Alderman Goodman and a second by Alderman Widener. Clerk Gravetti, could you please read the roll?
Alderman Crucial,
Aye.
Alderman Goodman,
Aye.
Alderman Krockenberg,
Aye.
Alderman Lockett,
Aye.
Alderman Widener,
Aye.
Alderman Ashour,
Aye.
Alderman Davalos,
Aye.
Alderman Berry.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, then the final one is the Old Town Redevelopment Site number 2. I had Alderman Davalos and Alderman Krockenberg have both volunteered for that position. Mayor Brummel, do you know if there would be a lot of meetings for this?
There will certainly be a few coming up, and it's an important position. I would be delighted to have either one of those aldermen involved in that. So I'll leave it to the council to make that decision. But it is an important one. We have a lot of good things going on there and a lot of potential to change the community for the better. So again, either one is a good choice. I would take them both, except that Ron has always advised me that you get a group too big and it becomes a little bit unwieldy. So one or the other would be great. So I'll let you duke it out, guys.
Okay. Alderman Davalos and Alderman Krockenberg, just put on your gloves and pick it up.
Yeah, the reason I was interested in it was because it was Ward 3. So, I mean, either one of us could do it, I'm sure.
Alderman Krockenberg, what do you think?
The reason I was interested in it is because it's development, and that's kind of one of the things that I do for a living. So I thought maybe I could help in some way, shape, or form there. So
This is Alderman Davalos. I think you could help in some way, shape, or form, and you're probably perfect for it. So I concede. to Alderman Kruckenberg, who I think will be great.
Okay, we are going
Thanks
to
for that.
award the gold medal to Alderman.
Do I get this?
Okay, so we need.
Alderman Widener, I'd like to make a motion to assign Alderman Kruckenberg to the, what's the name of the committee? The City
Old Town
Development?
Redevelopment
Old
Site
Town
number 2.
Redevelopment. Yes, that one.
Second, Alderman Ashour.
Okay, we have a motion by Alderman Widener and a second by Alderman Ashour. Clerk Gravetti, could you please read the roll call, please?
Alderman Davalos?
Aye.
Alderman Berry?
Aye.
Alderman Goodman?
Aye.
Alderman Ashaw?
Aye.
Alderman Lockett?
Aye.
Alderman Widener?
Aye.
Alderman Kruckenberg?
Aye.
Alderman Chrisell?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much. That was fun. Okay. And I don't know why we always have to do this on my meetings. Yeah. Okay, on to number 7. Consideration of water main lining change order. Director Kukler.
Thank you. City Council approved a contract to line the leaking water main under Route 59 near Winchester Circle in October of 2021. The water main was actually found to be larger than what the city records showed, so the contractor needed to increase the size of the pipeliner after the contract was signed. So this required a change order of $3,500, and there are adequate funds in the fiscal year 22 budget to pay for the change order. With that, I'd be happy to entertain any questions.
Sorry. Mayor Brummel, any questions?
No questions. I support the staff recommendation.
Okay. Alderman Ashour.
No questions or comments.
Thank you. I have no questions or comments. Alderman Davalos?
And I don't have any questions or comments either. Thanks.
Thank you. Alderman Goodman?
Nothing from me.
Thank you. Alderman Chrisell?
No questions, thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Kruckenberg?
No questions or comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Lockett?
No questions, thank you.
Thank you. And Alderman Widener?
No questions, thank you.
Thank you. I would need a motion, please.
This is Alderman Davalos. I recommend the City Council pass a resolution approving change order number 1 in the amount of $3,500 to the contract for FERPAL Construction USA Incorporated for water main pipeline services.
Second, Alderman Ashour.
Okay, we have a motion by Alderman Davalos and a second by Alderman Ashour. Clerk Gravetti, could you please read the roll call?
Alderman Goodman?
Aye.
Alderman Lockett?
Aye.
Alderman Widener?
Aye.
Alderman Kruckenberg?
Aye.
Alderman Chrisell?
Aye.
Alderman Berry?
Aye.
Alderman Ashaw?
Aye.
Alderman Davalos?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Number 8, consideration of storm sewer lining change order. Director Kukler.
Thank you. As mentioned in my budget presentation, there was a contract last year to line storm sewers in River Oaks along Stafford Place through the Trailhead project area and under Lakewood Drive downstream of the Summer Lakes Pond in July 2021. The original contract was for $203,000. In the quantities for the pipelining in River Oaks, the staff made a mistake and put 100 feet in the contract. The actual total was 163 feet. So it's required a change order of $7,560 to match the actual pipe length, and there are adequate funds in the fiscal year 22 budget to pay for the change order. That price was come up with by using the price per foot that is spelled out in the contract. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Brummel?
No questions. I support the staff recommendation again.
Thank you. Alderman Ashour?
I support it.
Okay, I have no comments or questions. I'm in favor. Alderman Davalos?
Oh, sorry. I have no questions or comments, and I'm also in favor.
Thank you. Alderman Goodman?
These things happen, no questions.
Thank you. Alderman Krischel?
No questions, thank you.
Alderman Kruckenberg?
No questions. I'm in support.
Thank you. Alderman Lockett?
No questions or comments. Thank you.
And Alderman Widener?
No questions or comments, thank you.
Thank you. Now we just need a motion, please.
Alderman Davalos, I'd like to make a motion to recommend the City Council pass a resolution approving change order number 1 in the amount of $7,560 to the contract with Benchmark Construction Company Incorporated for Lakeview Drive and River Oaks Drive storm sewer pipelining.
Second, Alderman Ashour.
Okay, we have a motion by Alderman Davalos and a second by Alderman Ashour. Clerk Grivetti, could you please read the roll call?
Alderman Kruckenberg,
Aye.
Alderman Davalos,
Aye.
Aye.
Alderman Berry,
Aye.
Alderman Krischel,
Aye.
Alderman Goodman,
Aye.
Alderman Lockett,
Aye.
Alderman Widener,
Aye.
Alderman Ashour.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Number 9, consideration of early recruitment for 2 public works workers. Director Kugler.
Thank you. Consistent with the Public Works Reorganization Plan that was approved by Council in December 2020, staff's including 2 decision packages in the fiscal year 2023 budget to hire 2 new workers to backfill the vacancies created with the promotion of the 2 crew leaders last year. Staff's requesting authorization to recruit for these 2 new positions early so it can fill them just after the beginning of the fiscal year. The recruiting process typically takes at least 3 months from advertising advertising for the job to a person starting with the city. So if council authorizes recruiting to begin in February, the new employees would likely not start before late May. So the actual hiring and filling the positions will only occur after council approval of the funding of the positions in the fiscal year 23 budget and the fiscal year 23 authorized strength ordinance. And with that, I'd be happy to entertain any questions.
Thank you. Mayor Brummel.
Sensible recommendation, I support it.
Thank you. Alderman Ashour.
No questions.
Thank you. I have no questions. I'm in support. Alderman Davalos.
Yes, I support this also. We've actually done this before for the same reason, so I'm in favor.
Thank you. Alderman Goodman.
I have some concerns about doing this ahead of the entire budget. I think that, as you all probably know, having staff is one of the most expensive things that we do as a council. It can be 2/3 to 4/5 of the general fund expense in any given year. So when we approved the Public Works reorganization, we said we would do so based on the financial condition of the city. And I feel like without the budget in front of me, I don't have enough of a handle on the budget and our current financial condition, especially of the enterprise fund, to make this decision in advance of having the budget in my hands. Without that context, I think making the decision early feels just too preemptive. We don't know whether we should be moving ahead now or if it's more fiscally prudent to wait. I understand the concern about recruitment, but without having a context for moving ahead with this, seeing the costs and benefits, seeing the resources that we're going to be drawing from to hire these employees for years to come, our fiscal projections, I'm just not ready to make that decision without looking at the budget.
Thank you. Alderman Krischel.
I think it makes sense to me. I mean, ultimately, you're not saying you're going to hire people right now, and obviously these things take time, and so I think having a closer look, you know, if we need to pull back, we can. So I'm in support of this.
Thank you. Alderman Kruckenberg. Oh, you're muted? No, I'm not muted. There you are.
I am.
Okay.
Sorry. I'm in support of this. I think it takes time to find staff, and I can understand Alderman Goodman's position, but I also agree that, I think we should get a head start and at least try and find staff and identify them if we can. So I'm in support.
Thank you. Alderman Lockett.
Yeah, I think the earlier you start nowadays, the better. So I'm in favor of this.
Thank you. Alderman Widener.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea, and it follows the precedent of what we've done before for positions that have been approved and identified in the budget and as part of reorganization. So I don't see any harm in starting the process now. It also puts us in an advantage for recent graduates of programs and things like that that might be qualified to accept these positions. Thank you.
Thank you. We need a motion, please.
Alderman Davalos, I'd like to make a motion to recommend the City Council direct staff to proceed with the recruitment for the positions of Street Division Worker and Water Utility Worker in the Public Works Department with an anticipated start date in May 2022.
Second, Alderman Ashour.
Thank you. We have a motion by Alderman Davalos and a second by Alderman Ashour. Clerk Gavetti, could you please read the roll call?
Alderman Lockett,
Aye.
Alderman Christian,
Aye.
Alderman Davalos,
Aye.
Alderman Widener,
Aye.
Alderman Ashour,
Aye.
Alderman Kruckenberg,
Aye.
Alderman Barry,
Aye.
Alderman Goodman.
Nay.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Number 10, consideration of Bicyclist and Pedestrian Advisory Commission request for City Council authorization to solicit and accept donations for the Warrenville Bike Rodeo event. This will be presented by Public Works Management Analyst Kristen Youngmeyer.
Thank you, and good evening, everyone. So the Bicyclist and Pedestrian Advisory Commission is in the midst of planning the annual spring event, the Bike Rodeo, which will be on the third Saturday in May 21st. And so in this process, they're requesting authorization to solicit local businesses for donated items to use as giveaways for participants. In your memo, in the backup materials, there is a copy of the city's solicitation policy. And so without further ado, if you guys have any questions or comments, I'd be happy to take them.
Thank you. Mayor Brummel, do you have any questions or comments, please?
No questions or comments, just support this event. It's a really fun event, and it's been very popular with families in town, and I appreciate the work that's put into it by BPAC because, again, it is one of those things that puts us on the map as a great little community.
Alderman Ashour.
No questions, thanks.
Thank you. I'm agree with this since I'm on the BPAC, and we are going to be looking for some donations. It's going to be a great event this year, and I'm all in favor. So, Alderman Davalos.
I'm all in favor also. Thank you.
Alderman Goodman.
No questions, thank you.
Alderman Krischel.
No questions. I'm good. Thanks.
Alderman Kruckenberg.
No questions. Thank you.
Okay. Alderman Lockett.
No questions. Thank you.
Alderman Widener.
I'm in full support. We've, again, done this before, and I think it's valid to try and get out in the community and request donation. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. We need a motion, please.
Alderman Davalos, I make a motion to recommend the City Council approve the request to solicit bids for the 16th Annual Bike Rodeo event on May 21st, 2022.
Second, Alderman Ashour.
We have a motion by Alderman Davalos and a second by Alderman Ashour. Clerk Covetti, could you please read the roll call?
Alderman Widener,
Aye.
Alderman Ashour,
Aye.
Alderman Lockett,
Aye.
Alderman Berry,
Aye.
Alderman Davalos,
Aye.
Alderman Chrisell,
Aye.
Alderman Goodman,
Aye.
Alderman Kriftenberg.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank
Just
you.
a quick comment, if I might.
Yes.
I believe the motion should have read solicit and accept donations. I heard solicit bids.
Clerk
Will we have to redo that? I believe what Alderman Davalos said was solicit bids. And the motion should have read solicit and accept donations.
Okay, but I guess we have to do that over because it says bids on my sheet here. So I'm reading, well, yeah. Oh, on my sheet it says bids for number 10. So we just have to make the motion again maybe and reword it.
We have to do the whole thing over. Yes. Well, let's be on the safe side. We'll do the whole thing over again. Okay. Alderman Davalos,
Mayor, can you
want
say?
to adjust that?
Yeah, Mayor, can you say that again? Instead of solicit bids, it's solicit donations.
Solicit and accept donations.
Solicit and accept donations. Okay, Alderman Davalos, I'd like to move to recommend the City Council approve the request to solicit
And accept donations.
and accept donations for the 16th Annual Bike Rodeo event on May 21st, 2022.
It's getting late.
Yes.
Second, Alderman Ashour.
Also.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. We have a motion by Alderman Davalos, a second by Alderman Ashour. Clerk, can you read the roll call, please?
Alderman Chrisell,
Aye.
Alderman Goodman,
Aye.
Alderman Kriftenberg,
Aye.
Alderman Lockett,
Aye.
Alderman Widener,
Aye.
Alderman Ashour,
Aye.
Alderman Davalos,
Aye.
Alderman Berry.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. Number 11, consideration of Bicyclist and Pedestrian Advisory Commission request to close certain streets in conjunction with Warrenville's bike rodeo activities. This again was Public Works Management Analyst Kristen Youngmeyer.
So this again is also for the bike rodeo. It's typically been held in front of City Hall in the parking lot by the gazebo, which is where BPAC is planning to have it again. So due to liability and safety concerns, they are requesting or recommending City Council approve the closure of a section of Stafford Place, kind of starting on an edge of the library parking lot, going over to where the cul-de-sac is. In your backup materials, there is a map that will better capture what I was just trying to explain. But anyway, they're looking for approval to close. If there's any questions or comments, I'd be happy to take them.
Thank you. Mayor Brummel, questions or comments?
Nope, we do it every year. Thank you.
Alderman Ashour.
No questions.
I have no questions. Alderman Davalos.
No questions, in favor.
Thank you. Alderman Goodman.
No questions, thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Chrisell.
No questions, thanks.
Thank you. Alderman Kruckenberg.
No questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Lockett.
No questions or comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Widener.
No questions or comments.
Okay. And now we need a motion.
This is Alderman Davalos. I would like to move to recommend the City Council authorize the partial closure of Stafford Place for the annual bike rodeo event as stated in the February 9th, 2022 memo from Management Analyst and BPAC Staff Liaison Youngmeyer.
Second, Alderman Ashour.
Okay, we have a motion by Alderman Davalos, a second by Alderman Ashour. Clerk Gravetti, could you please read the roll call, please?
Alderman Davalos?
Aye.
Alderman Berry?
Aye.
Alderman Goodman?
Aye.
Alderman Ashour?
Aye.
Alderman Lockett?
Aye.
Alderman Widener?
Aye.
Alderman Kluckenberg?
Aye.
Alderman Krischel?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Almost there. Number 12, discussion of draft FY 2023 citywide work plan. Assistant City Administrator Christina White, please.
Thank you again. This is going to continue to be in the committee of the whole packets until the approval, or actually until the budget workshop next month. If there are any questions, the updated revised version of the citywide work plan is included in the packet. I'm happy to answer questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Comments, questions? Mayor Brummel.
I have nothing, thank you.
Alderman Ashour.
No questions or comments.
Thank you. I have no questions or comments. Alderman Davalos.
I have no questions or comments. I got everything answered in the presentation earlier.
Thank you. Alderman Goodman.
Nothing tonight.
Thank you. Alderman Krischel.
No questions or comments, thanks.
Thank you. Alderman Kruckenberg.
No questions or comments.
Thank you. Alderman Lockett.
No questions or comments. Thank you.
Thanks. Alderman Widener.
No questions or comments. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That was a information only, so we do not need a motion. And on to the last item, number 13, review and file Public Works Department FY 2022 Work Program and Decision Package Status Report. This is just an information only, but if anyone has any questions, I think Assistant City Administrator could answer them, or I'm so sorry, Director Kukler could answer them. So if anyone has any questions, you want to raise your hand, you could do it that way, or should we go through the list? Just raise your hand, speak up. Mayor, were you raising your hand? Oh, no. Okay. Put them both down. Thank you. All right. All right. I guess we have no comments or questions. We need one. We have nothing under miscellaneous. So we have one final motion, please.
Alderman Goodman, I move to adjourn.
Second, Alderman Ashour.
We have a motion by Alderman Goodman and a second by Alderman Ashour to adjourn. Clerk Gravetti, could you please read the roll call?
I'd be happy to. Alderman Ashour.
Aye.
Alderman Berry.
Aye.
Alderman Davalos.
Aye.
Alderman Goodman.
Aye.
Alderman Krischel.
Aye.
Alderman Kluckenberg.
Aye.
Alderman Lockett.
Aye.
Alderman Widener.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you, everyone, and good night.
Thank you, Chairman. Bye-bye, everybody.
This